All right, class. So today I am going to show you how to take your sketch and bring it into Illustrator and work on top of your sketch. I think that would probably be the easiest thing to do. So just kind of a reminder, you should have your basic sketch, right? And you should have a really good understanding of what objects are going to continuously move. Like, so for instance, my clouds are going to continue to loop and move. You might have a person run out of a door and then it's just going to continue to loop and move. But I would make it so that whatever is continuously moving is somewhat natural for the most part. Like, instead of a person maybe like running out of the door and it just continuing to run out the door and looping like that, maybe like a person sitting in a rocking chair that's rocking back and forth would be more natural. So you can see here I have boats rocking, water moving, clouds moving, and that's my continuous movement within this animation. And then I'm going to have buttons. So I have my 3 buttons that I kind of have an idea of what's going to happen there. I kind of labeled what's happening. And then I'm going to have audio occurring throughout the entire animation, but it's going to be like noises of the background, so water movement and stuff like that. And then I'm going to have a person speaking when you click on this button here. All right, so this is my final sketch. All right, when I created this, initially I had like multiple sketches, so I'm just showing you one of probably like 20 sketches that I had to start with. So how do you bring this into Illustrator? So we're going to use Illustrator to create our final illustration. You can see here that I already brought in what was my final image here. Okay, so it started with my sketch, right? So you can see here at the bottom I have my sketch. I actually have a lot of stuff locked here, and then I added layers on top of, and you can see how I labeled them: sky, clouds, buildings, water, boat, windows, lamp, light, because you're going to want them to be all separate parts. It's going to be way easier when you go to select things and bring them into Animate to work with them. So file size. So I'm gonna like pretend like this didn't exist and redo it. So what I'm gonna do is go to File, New, and we're gonna work in pixels, and we're gonna base it on a file size of 1920 by 1080. All right, and that would be a file size that would be used for like a TV screen. So that's the size, the width and the height that we're going to go with. So your width is 1920, your height is 1080, orientation is horizontal, and we're working in pixels. Okay, so I'm going to create. Okay, so it's a little bit bigger than before, but this is the size that I would like us to work in. And all you could do is open up the image, which I have on my desktop. I called it Final Sketch. Okay, so I'm going to open up this file, and this isn't a completely separate file. All right, so what I'm going to do is just copy it. I'm going to copy it by doing Control-C, bring it here and do Control-V. So you can see the size of it is a little bit different. So I might have to like improvise, add to, so forth. And I'm going to have to add to a lot actually. So you have to disregard my sketch here because the size requirements that were given to me when I was working on this are much different than the size requirements that I'm giving you. So that's why it doesn't fit. But yours will definitely fit much better. You might need to add 2 because it is a little bit longer than an 8.5 by 11 if you are like drawing on top of your sketch. All right, so here you can see if I use this as my sketch, I might just make this dock a little bit longer, extend the dock out a little bit longer. Maybe this house they're going to extend out further. The clouds are going to extend out. The water is going to extend out. And so this boat, there'll be more of that boat and so forth. But at least I have a general idea of where I want to place it. So I'm going to take this layer. I'm going to label it my sketch. Okay. And I'm going to lock it. I don't want to touch it. It's just there. I'm going to trace over it. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to name this my background. And I may not. Maybe I'll label it water. Okay. And I might label another one buildings. Whoops. So right now I'm thinking about my background. My background to me consists of the buildings that are stationary, even the clouds in the background that will probably be moving, although I might make those clouds a separate layer because they are going to be a separate animation. And the dock here would be part of my background. And the water, but the water is moving, so that might be also a separate layer. So that's why I'm kind of building up layers. So what I might start with, you want to just a reminder of like different tools that you can work with. You can use your pen tool, right, to create shapes and fill in objects. So for instance, let's say that I wanted to, and I would work as like a layering. So my building is very linear, so I might just create and block in this shape here, okay? And then I'm going to try and obviously it's going off the artboard, and that's okay. Pick a color. So we didn't really do color schemes, so I'm going to kind of have you play around with this on your own. So that could be like one building, right? And then maybe I'm going to do another building. Okay, I'm going to try doing two buildings here. Block in this one here. Connected it. It's okay. I'm going to add a point and just okay. So it actually kind of connected it as one, but let me see if I can change the color of it. This specific one. Make it not the prettiest color buildings here, but okay. So that would be like another building, right? So let's say I kind of went on to continue blocking out these buildings. I can go and lower the opacity of these shapes by selecting them. Okay, and you can really like see through the image, see what's happening. And then maybe I create another layer and have it be called details of buildings. Because I'm layering them on top of. Or, I mean, you could put them in the building layer. But then in this layer, I'm going to just deselect these, and maybe I'm going to use my pen tool again to then start creating the doorway to my building. And maybe I'm going to make that. Again, my colors are not really the best right now, but and there would be like the doorway, right? And then I can select this, up the opacity, right? And you can see how it's starting to take shape. Maybe I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to name it dock, and I'm going to then add my dock in. If you'll excuse me, my son just got home. Don't need 3-year-olds running up the stairs in the middle of a screencast. And then in that dock layer, I can, pick my color that I want. Okay. Again, my colors are pitiful right now, but now notice again, I'm kind of extending this out and up. Okay. And then that could be my dock area. So notice I'm just like blocking in color. I'm going over the boats. The boats might be a separate layer on top of. And now I'm just kind of filling in my background. Okay, so when I say to start your background, I mean to do like your stationary objects, like the background, like the buildings in my case, the clouds would be a separate layer, the water, the dock, um, and and my 3-year-old's trying to come in here. Um, and that's that. I wouldn't really start getting into your boats or the people in the water, in the boats in the water. What I can also do is show you later on how to even add some of these textures in if you wanted textures into the background, like the stone on the ground or the texture of the buildings. So if I were to get rid of some of these layers, I get rid of like some of my buttons, like the birds, even the boats. Boats don't need to be in there. You can see though I kind of missed a layer. What is that? The lamp. The windows would be background. So to me, this would be like my background. All right, so this is what we're working on right now. This is our goal, to achieve our background. And then we could start adding in extra details like other things that are moving, buttons that we're creating, and so forth. But we got to get this down first. All right, and you can see that's kind of how I started. But you know, for mine's very linear. Like there's a lot of straight lines, it's a lot of buildings. I used my pen tool to really create these shapes. But don't forget some of these tools that you've learned, like your shape tool. Like I could definitely use the rectangle to create certain things. Or even like the ellipse or any of these tools. And also don't forget your paintbrush and blob brush. Remember, your paintbrush is for outlining objects and your blob brush is for filling in. So if I wanted to, if I was like, you know what, I don't want to use the paintbrush, I'm sorry, the pen tool for filling in shapes, I want to use my blob brush. By all means, use your blob brush to fill in objects, right? You can paint in the whole thing. So you can see here right now, not that I would want this boat to be blue, but using the blob brush, I'm going to go ahead and erase that one little part that I have here. Okay, and maybe it makes it into a shape. All right, so that's a really easy way to make shapes as well. All right. And don't forget to try using the image trace tool, though I would rather you use that for objects that maybe are a little bit harder for you to draw or create. I think that your challenge here is to really try to create your image in Illustrator. All right. And that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but this is kind of where we're starting.